strap in, get a coffee, because I think that this is going to be a very long video. I have hit 44 eyeshadow pans this year, and I'm about to share with you all of them. It is a lot, okay? It's going to be a lot. I'm going to have to do this video in sections, but I'm actually really excited. Putting all of this together has really shown me how many eyeshadow pans that I have actually hit from such a wide range of different eyeshadow palettes, such a wide range of colours, and I'm actually really, really proud of myself for my progress this year. But just before we do jump into the video, if you have not already, definitely like and subscribe, because I am doing Vlogmas, which means I am uploading every single day in the month of December, including weekends. Okay, I'm here for the long haul. I thought, you know what, I want a challenge, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do today and all month. Everything on my face will be linked down in the description below, so if anything takes your fancy, you know exactly where to get it. But with that being said, this is already going to be a long video. I am just going to jump straight into it. Okay, are we ready? So, pan number 1 comes from my Pan That palette this year. So I am pre-filming a tiny bit, so I will show you the inside of this palette. You can see we are looking pretty beaten and bruised, okay? But the first pan that we hit this year was in the shade Primavera, which is now completely gone. Okay, we can look back at 12 months ago and imagine a fresh baby tiny pan in Primavera. I hit this on the 22nd of January, and yeah, this was the first of many. It was the first pan of a very long line, a very long journey, and even just looking back at the first pan is so crazy to me, because look at it, she is an OAP now. She is ready for the retirement home. It's crazy to look back on the first ever pan. And I know it's not very satisfying because there's nothing there anymore, but just bear with me, I do have a lot more very satisfying pans. So that was the only pan that I hit in January, which seems kind of weird, but that's what my paperwork says, so I'm going to trust it. The next pan was hit on the 13th of February, and that is What's the Tea from J Star. I do want to finish this eventually. It's one of those shades that is quite low in the pan. There's really not much left. I have depotted all of my J Star shades for obvious reasons, but yeah, this is a really beautiful blue shade. I haven't really been working too much on it in the past few months because I've had a very similar shade in my Pan Those eyeshadows. So yeah, things like this have been put on the back burner, but hopefully in 2024 this will be an eyeshadow empty, and that would be amazing. Okay, going back to the Modern Renaissance, you're going to see this a lot in this video, I think, especially at the start of this video. And Red Ochre, which is this red shade here, was hit on the 25th of February, which is kind of weird because there is still a small medium-ish pan in there. You'd think because I hit this so long ago, I would have a lot more progress in it, but this honestly is one of those shades I don't reach for too often. You can definitely see we've made amazing progress in the palette as a whole though, so I'm not holding myself too accountable. But yeah, it is weird to think that I hit this way back at the start of the year and it still isn't finished, which is interesting. Next was the shade White Peach from the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, and this is another finished shade. Clearly, when I hit pan on something, I go hard, because that's 2 now finished shades that we have spoken about in the first 4 minutes of this video. So I'm really happy with that. This was just a lid setting shade, very, very easy to use up. So next is the shade Frozen North from the Urban Decay Game of Thrones palette, and it may or may not be wrapped up right now as one of my props. I have a bundle of very, very interesting presents behind me. Okay, I've got the dog's eye drops box, I've got medication boxes, I've got all the things that you'd ask Santa for, you know, including my Urban Decay palette, but it was like a really deep shimmery blue shade. I don't know how else I could describe it. I was looking for another word. It was a shimmery medium deep blue, and it was really nice. It was in a Pan Those eyeshadows projects, and I hit that on the 10th of March. So the first 3 months of this year weren't very good for eyeshadow pans. This is what I'm learning. I really haven't hit many pans between January and March, which is interesting because later on in the year, I promise it gets better. Ta-da! Modern Renaissance. She's back again. Oh, she's like a bad smell. The next shade is the shade Bon Fresco, which is this dusty pinky mauvey Navy shade, and I hit that on the 11th of March. So that's the third pan in this palette. And again, it's one of the smallest pans. Even though it was hit way back when, it's still one of the smallest pans, which is interesting. Next is a shade that I would love to finish next year. This is Starlight from the Pastel Roses, and as you can see, I do have a pan in this. The Pastel Roses recently sent me a replacement of this shade, which I am so thankful for because I was so scared of finishing this off. So I would really love to have this finished off in 2024 because I know I have a replacement shade. I know that I don't have to be without this in my life. I hit this on the 12th of March, so we're kicking up speed now. Okay, we've had the 5th, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th of March, which is amazing. Next, oh my goodness me, she won't leave. Oh my god, it's the Modern Renaissance. I hit the shade Love Letter, which is definitely a bit more of a bigger pan now, and I hit that on the 21st of March, so a little bit of a skip forward, but I'm really happy with the progress in this shade. I did say right at the start of this project, I'm not a pink person, so the pinks in this palette were really scary to me. But look at the progress that I've made in this pink. I think I've done so well for not being a pink person, for pink being my least favorite color. I think I've just done amazingly with this shade specifically. I have learned that if I pair it with Bonfresco, it does kind of mute down a little bit. It is definitely not as like bright fuchsia pink, which I don't like, okay? I don't like that Barbie fuchsia pink. I definitely prefer it muted down, so that's been a really nice learning curve. But yeah, Love Letter, that's the next pan. Next I have my Book of Magic palette. This is such a beloved palette for me, and I hit the shade Hex, which is the deep black shade. This black in this palette is amazing, and I hit that on the 21st of March, the same as the last shade and actually the same as the next shade. So I hit 3 pans in one day, which is amazing. But yeah, I think we're gonna see this palette quite a lot in this video as well, because I mean, you can see I've loved it. Next comes from my Just My Luck palette, and again, it was the 21st of March that I hit this, and this is in the shade Charmed here. So you can see a tiny baby pan in this shade, and Colourpop mattes are so difficult to hit pan on, let me tell you. Oh my god, if you've not hit pan on a Colourpop matte, whoa, it is absolutely borderline impossible. So I'm so glad that I managed to hit pan on this. This was a shade that I had in my Pan Those Eyeshadows project last year, and I was so close to hitting pan on it. And so I rolled it into a project after my Pan Those Eyeshadows had ended, and it took like 2 uses to hit pan on. It was so annoying, but at least I hit the pan, okay? At least I hit it. Tiny baby pan. I'm very, very proud of this one. Moving on to April. So the next shade, I'm just looking at my notes. There are so many eyeshadows listed. I'm getting a bit lost. So this is the shade Nuke from my Carnival XL Pro, and it is this deep green, like foresty green matte down here. I hit that pan on the 12th of April. So again, moving on now, we're in April. This is the pan. I was really, really happy with this pan. I did hit quite a few shades in this palette this year, which I'm happy about. I do want to hit more pans in this palette. If you guys don't know, this is my Pan Those Eyeshadows like focus palette. So every month, starting quite recently, I have chosen one shade to hit pan on in this palette, just because I want pan in like all of them, okay? I want every single shade to have pan in it, so that is my goal. So we started with Nuke this year, which was quite a challenging shade, but if you guys know me, you guys will know I love my teals, I love my blues, so this wasn't too difficult for me. Moving on to the 13th of April, she's back, the Book of Magic, and I hit the shade Cursed, which is this mega pan down here. It is crazy to think that I hit this pan not too long ago in the grand scheme of things. This was hit on the 13th of April, and I've just been expanding it ever since. This is definitely the biggest pan in this palette, and this is definitely one of my go-to shades. I love blue, like I just said. Blue eyeshadow is my favorite color to wear on my eyes. So I mean, this palette is just right up my street, isn't it? It really, really is. So yeah, that is the next shade. Moving on to May, I have my P. Louise Winter Wonderland palette, and this palette was my Project Level Up Level 1 palette. So in May, I finally decided I was going to jump on the bandwagon. Sophie Alexandra, she lured me into this project. This was my level 1, and I hit pan on the shade Ice Ice Baby down here on the 5th of May. I have absolutely loved the Project Level Up. I'm really, really happy that I decided to start it. I was so nervous starting this project. Let me tell you, I was so nervous, but I've had such a good time. Thank you so much to Sophie for making this project. I know a lot of project panners have had an incredible time doing this project, including myself. So yeah, this was my gateway almost to the Project Level Up. Okay, next for this section, before I do a big cut and get rid of everything on my desk and bring in the next load of palettes, this is my e.l.f. Berry Bad shade number 2. I did depot my e.l.f. Berry Bad palette into single eyeshadows. I have actually ended up decluttering this single eyeshadow, so I had to rummage a little bit to find it. And I hit that on the 12th of May. So yeah, we're really getting to the middle now. I hit pan in this in a Pan Those Eyeshadows project, then I never touched it again. This kind of shade isn't really for me, hence why it has been decluttered. But yeah, I thought I might as well show it to you guys and share the pan. Okay, so I'm going to clear my desk. I'm going to bring in the next round of palettes, so just bear with me. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm back with the next round of eyeshadows. So let's go. The first one is the shade Grand from the Colourpop Baroque palette. Now that palette was decluttered and I no longer have it in my collection, unfortunately, but that was my Project Level Up Level 2 palette, and I hit that shade on the 13th of May. Moving straight on, because obviously I don't have the palette to share with you, unfortunately. She's back. Modern Renaissance. Are we surprised? The shade that I'm talking about is Golden Ochre, and this is my most recent empty in this palette. You can see there are so many empty shades. I'm so proud of this. So Golden Ochre was kind of like a dusty yellowy kind of shade. It wasn't the best shade for me. I wasn't really a fan of it. I ended up using it a lot as a blush, but I did hit pan on that on the 16th of May, and that was adding to my big collection of pans in this palette. Next, again, a returning palette. This is the Book of Magic. I hit pan on Sorcery, which is this kind of Barney purple. I'm pretty sure this was in a Pan Those Eyeshadows project, and you can see the pan is pretty big, so I'm really happy about that. I hit pan on that on the 30th of May, so we're getting closer to the middle of the year. It's nearly the midpoint, guys, and that meant this palette was looking pretty loved, but obviously not as loved as it is right now. Next, we had my Rides here, which was a black eyeshadow, and this is what this currently looks like. I can't even show you the label because it is just really, really gunky, but trust me, this was a black eyeshadow. I hit pan on this. I'm running out. I'm losing my track. On the 6th of June, we've officially hit the halfway point of the year. 6th of June, my Rides here. We hit pan on, and obviously it is all gone right now. The next shade was the shade Lounge from the Baroque palette, and as I said, I have got rid of that palette, so I can't show you that shade, but I hit that on the 11th of June. Next, we have my Subculture palette, a new palette to this video, and I hit pan on the shade Cube up here. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it because it is a white shade, but it's one of those white shades with like a pink iridescent-iness kind of to it. And I hit pan on that on the 15th of June. This was a really, really nice inner corner shade. I did actually really like this, and I think I might roll this in to a Project Level Up soon because like it's looking pretty pristine, and I don't like my makeup to look pristine at all. I like it to look beaten up. So yeah, this compared to its sister, let me just share this. Like, look at these. They're definitely a lot different, okay? This is like the toe rag sister, and this is like the prim and proper sister, you know? I can even feel the weight difference between them. It is mad. It just makes me even happier that I've got so much progress on this. I know I'm gushing about the Modern Renaissance, but honestly, I'm just so proud of myself. Next, we have the first potted eyeshadow, and this is the Touch in Sol Metalist shadow, and you can hopefully see right in the middle there is a tiny, tiny pan. I don't want to tip this too much because it does seem like it's cracking along the edges, but this was a really, really sparkly, shimmery gold shade. I'd love to get more use on this, and it went really, really well with Primavera from my Pan That palette. I definitely paired those two shades together a lot, and yeah, I just really loved it. This gave Primavera a little bit more of a boost, and it's just so beautiful. Like, I want to use this more, definitely. This month, I am taking a little bit of a break from a lot of my project pans, and that is just to use my wider collection and use things that I always say, like, oh, I wish I could use this more. I want to show this more love. And this month is definitely about that. So I think this will be getting a little bit more love this month. I hit pan on this on the 18th of June. Guess what? She's back. Okay, this time we are talking about the shade Realgar, which is this bright orange matte down in the corner. This shade took so long to hit pan on. Oh my god. It's like a different formula from the rest of the palette. And a lot of project panners that have panned this palette in the past also agree that Realgar seems to have some kind of superhuman strength, okay? When you think of the ABH palettes, you normally think of project panners saying, oh, it's so easy to hit pan on these shades. I think Realgar heard us and went, no. Because honestly, it took, I want to say, about 30 uses to hit pan on this, whereas the other shades may have taken about 10 uses. I don't know what ABH were thinking when they came to pressing Realgar, but they fooled us all, okay? They fooled us all. Realgar was tough to hit pan on, and I hit pan on that on the 10th of July. So we're moving on to July now, even further on in the year. Very, very exciting. Next, we have a new palette to this video. This is my Lethal Custom palette. I call this palette the Smoke on the Water palette because it's very smoky, quite blue as well. I think that name is perfect. And I hit pan on this shade called Lucid in my Pan Those Eyeshadows series. This was quite difficult to hit pan on. I did definitely use it as a nail polish a few times, and I hit pan on that on the 15th of July. This was such a beautiful shade. I really did love it. You guys know I love blue. If I can have any excuse to use a blue eyeshadow, I will. So you know what? This was a pretty good eyeshadow to roll in. Okay, so we're gonna see this next palette quite a lot in the coming few eyeshadows. This is my Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. This was my Project Level Up Level 3 palette. And the first shade I hit was the shade Snow, which is this lid setting shade up here. Hopefully you can see the pan in this. And I hit pan on that shade on the 2nd of August. So it's kind of scary. We're moving really far into the year now. We're up to the 8th month. I just think I've done so well this year with eyeshadows. But Snow was obviously a given shade for this palette. Obviously, I use a lid setting shade every single time I do my makeup, so it was pretty easy to hit pan in this shade. Oh, I missed a shade. So I did actually hit pan on a shade before Snow, and that was Ray, which is this inner corner, really beautiful, like yellowy blue duochrome shade. And I hit pan on that on the 25th of July. So this was on the 25th of July, and then this was on the 2nd of August. Yes, that is right. Okay, thought I'd correct myself there. It's so hard to keep track. When you get so far down the page, you just lose track of where you are. This is really difficult, okay? Bear with me. But yeah, 2 pans were hit on the same palette back to back. So I think I redeemed myself there. Next, I have the shade Rosewood, and this is actually a Franken of Rosewood and Mug Cakes from the Soph X Revolution palette. And I use this in my eyebrows pretty much every single day. As you can see, the pan has expanded a massive amount, okay? This is not a baby pan anymore. This is a full-blown, nearly finished bad boy. Look at this. So I hit pan on this on the 9th of August. This is a shade that I've just continued working on. Hopefully in early 2024, I can have this rolled out. I can have this as an empty, and that would be amazing because, as I said, this is 2 eyeshadows in here. So this would not just be 1 eyeshadow empty, it would be 2, and that is always so satisfying when that happens. Speaking of the Soph X Revolution palette, this is another Franken shade, and look at this. It's clinging on for dear life. This is a mix of the shade Penguin and Cup of Tea. So Penguin was a bright white shade, and then Cup of Tea was like an off beigey kind of shade. And Franken together, they make the perfect lid setting shade for me, and look how close we are to finishing this. This will 100% be done by the end of the year, and I'm so excited because that is 2 eyeshadow empties again. I hit pan on this on the 14th of August, so we've been going quite strong. There have been other lid setting shades that I have been focusing on throughout that time between August and now, so it has been kind of paused every now and then, but as of right now, this is my absolute focus lid setting shade. I will have this done by the end of the year if it kills me. Even if I have to set my whole face with this, I will do it to have this finished by the end of the year. Going back to the Wilderness palette, we have the shade Fossil, and this was my third and final pan in this palette. I really didn't expect to fall in love with this shade, but this shade is so sparkly and like glittery on the eye. It is so beautiful. It is, I was going to say one of my favorite shades in the palette, but honestly, every single shade apart from Heat and probably Raw as well, like these 2 shades don't count. This palette is my favorite palette. Every single shade is my favorite shade in this palette. I cannot pick at all. So I hit pan on Fossil on the 22nd of August, and I did also use it as a nail polish, and it looked insane as a nail polish. It was so shimmery, so sparkly, such a treat to use. And yeah, I do kind of miss using this palette as well, not gonna lie. And then on the 25th of August, oh my goodness me, she's back. Oh my god. I'm gonna talk about the shade Antique Bronze, which is actually my focus shade for this month. I have this on as my first lid shade today, and then I blended it out with some other neutrals from a different palette. But yeah, I'm hoping to get as close to finishing this shade as possible throughout the next month or few weeks now, which is so scary. I hate saying that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this was my last pan in this palette. The rest of the time for this palette has just been trying to finish shades, trying to get as much use as humanly possible. It's been a very, very, very long year with this palette, but I would not change it for the world. I do absolutely adore this palette, and I'm gonna really miss her. I am. I've seen Danny's makeup display her palettes that she's finished, but honestly, this looks like a zombie has been eating at it. So I don't think it's display worthy really, but I don't know what I'm going to do with the empty shell of this palette when I finish it, because I do feel a little emotionally attached to it. So I don't think I want to just throw it, but a part of me is like, oh, just let her go, because she is, I don't know how Danny has made her palette so pristine, but you can tell that mine has been through the wars. Okay, so for the last time, I'm going to put all of these shades back, and I'm going to pull in the last round of palettes for this video. Okay, the final round. Here we go. Are we ready? So the next shade that I hit was on the 5th of September, and that is from my Soft Glam palette. So a new palette in this video. Finally, we need some new faces, okay? And that is in the shade Glistening, which is this shade up here. This shade was in a Pan Those Eyeshadows project, and it was okay. I don't really like these 2 shimmers in this palette. They're just a little bit boring, a little bit dull. Maybe I'm used to super bright, intense indie shimmer shades, but these 2 shades are just not the best in my opinion. They were definitely just like a use to use kind of shade. They weren't a use because I love kind of shade. Next, we have my Huda Beauty Neon Orange Obsessions palette, and I'm talking about this bottom corner shade here. This was also in a Pan Those Eyeshadows project, and I hit pan on this on the 8th of September, so a day after my birthday. This was like a trek to hit pan on. This shade up here was also in a Pan Those Eyeshadows project at the same time, so I did pair these 2 together quite a lot. They blended each other out really, really well. But this shade you can barely tell has been used, but I have used it 15 times. This one, I think I hit pan on like the 15th use, so it just scraped through. If you don't know my Pan Those Eyeshadows series, I either hit pan or hit 15 uses, so this was definitely a close call, but I did hit pan on it. I would like more pans in this palette, but honestly, I say that about every palette in my collection, so just ignore me at this point. Next is a palette that I have decluttered, but I do actually still have it on my side, luckily. So this was my Project Level Up Level 4 palette, so you will see this reoccurring a few times in the next few months, I guess. So the first shade that I hit was the shade Mino up here. You can definitely see this pan, and I did use this in my brows. It was a little bit dark for me, as you could probably see, but it worked well enough, and I did also use it as a deepening shade on my outer corner as well quite a lot. I chose this palette because at the time, and still now, there is no shimmers in my Pan That palette, so I thought, oh, these shimmers would be really, really nice to work on in conjunction with my Pan That palette. But I did learn that even though the quality of this palette is amazing, I don't like how warm it is, even though I'm wearing a warm tone look today, but shush, 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 shush. If I'm going to reach for a palette, I'm probably going to reach for neutral to cool toned neutral shades. But this is like incredibly warm. This is more warm tone than it looks, and it did kind of put me off a little bit. So I did decide to declutter this palette. This was the first shade in my Project Level Up that I hit. And then at the end of the year, relatively, I did decide to start a new project pan, a new eyeshadow project pan, and that was my Pan That palette in order. And I chose my Bella Pierre All Stars palette for that task. And here we go. As you can see, this is what the palette looks like so far. And I hit the first shade here on the 16th of September. I think I didn't say. I hit pan on Mino on the 11th of September. If I did say, I've just had too many dates. Okay, I've said too many dates in the past 30 minutes. I can't keep count. But this was a really nice inner corner shade. I did use it as a face highlighter as well a few times, so it was relatively easy to hit pan on. And as you can see, that shiny pan there is pretty beautiful. Next we have, again, the Warrior palette, and I'm going to talk about the shade AOC, which is just a lid setting shade here. Again, I've spoken about a few lid setting shades in this video. Very easy for me to hit pan on, very easy for me to finish. I do use them every single day, like I said, and I hit pan on this on the 3rd of October. So we're really getting into the end of the year now, the 3rd of October. I am really nervous. I honestly am. But I'm very happy with how this palette looks, even if it is no longer in my collection. I know that I've used it. I know that it's not just something that I've used once and then thrown. I have definitely gotten to know and gotten to love this palette, and yeah, I'm happy about that. Next, this bad boy is back. So this is when I started introducing this into my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. And the first shade I picked was the shade Pink Me up here. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this pan again because this shade is so light. But this is, again, one of those white to pink iridescent-y kind of shades. And I used this on my inner corner and it worked really well with a few of the pink shades from my Pan That palette. So I'm very grateful about that. And that meant that I could hit pan on it relatively quickly. This shade again was hit on the 3rd of October, so the same day as the previous shade. And yeah, as I said, this was the first Pan Those Eyeshadows focus palette pans. Does that make sense? I'm losing all rationality right now. I've been talking for way too long. But yeah, this was the first Pan That palette focus palette pan that I hit. That was a lot. That was a lot to say. The next shade is, again, my Bella Pierre All Stars palette, and this is the second shade in. As you can see, a pretty big pan in this. This was a really nice blending out shade for a lot of neutral looks. It's kind of like a peachy orange, but very light. It was very nice, and I hit pan on this on the 15th of October, so not too long ago. We're getting really into the latter end of the year now. We're getting there slowly but surely. We are making progress. Oh my goodness me. I did really enjoy this shade actually. It worked really well with the shade next to it, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, but it made a similar look to what I'm wearing on my eyes today, and I definitely got into that towards the latter half of this year. Next we have two shades from my Juvia's Place Warrior palette back to back. So first we have Moremi, which is this inner corner highlight shade. This again is very warm toned. It looks quite neutral in the pan, but when you put it on, it definitely has this like yellowness to it, and I'm not too fond of that. I've noticed that with this palette, it looks very neutral. You put it on your eye and then bam, you've got yellow, which is, it's not my personal jam. And again, it's a big reason why this palette has been decluttered from my collection. So Moremi was hit on the 26th of October. Again, getting very, very close to the end of the year. I know I'm going to say that, but like I need to stop saying that because you're like, yeah, we know, you've said that. And then Backward was the next shade that we hit pan on, and this was hit on the 2nd of November. So yeah, just, they're okay shades. I don't think I would ever choose to reach for this palette, especially after playing around with it in my project level up. I'm not going to keep palettes that I'm just like, about. You know? Next is the Carnival XL Pro again, and it is another focus shade from my Pan Those eyeshadows, and it is the shade Keen up here. It is this super vibrant yellow matte shade, and I hit this on the 4th of November, and I decided to roll this in to my Pan Those eyeshadows just because A, it already had a massive dip in it, so I was pretty confident I could hit pan, and B, it went really, really well with the warm tones in my Modern Renaissance as well. I was happy working on this, even though it's not summer anymore. I don't know, I just feel I want bright colours still. I'm not ready to give up on bright colours, okay? Even in the depths of winter when it's rainy and horrible and stormy and cold, I still want to wear bright eyeshadow. Next is something else that has been decluttered, so I had to go rooting for it. This is the Revolution Maxi Reloaded shade 7, and as you can see, it's like a pinky pale matte. Again, it went really, really well with Love Letter from my Pan That palette, so I was pretty happy with that. But this was randomly selected in my Pan Those eyeshadows, and I hit pan on this on the 6th of November. I have recently decided to declutter it, like I said, just because A, pinks aren't my thing. I am not going to reach for a pink of my own accord. And B, the pigmentation on this isn't that great. I can live without it. I've got shades very similar to it in proper palettes, so I don't need to keep this around. Next, it's been a while, but the Book of Magic is back. I did hand select this palette to be my Project Level Up Level 5 palette, so I do hand select palettes from that project, and I'm very happy that I did pick my Book of Magic palette because I really do love this palette. So I hit pan on Manifest, which is this deep brown shade up here, and I did use this as a brow shade, and I hit pan on that on the 14th of November. So November seemed to be a pretty good month for pans because already we've had a handful of pans and we do have a handful to go as well. This was very much a gimme shade in this palette. I kind of knew that I'd hit pan on this straight away. I am also trying to hit pan on the lid setting shade again because it's so easy, but I do want to finish this Revolution one first. So this is the priority, and then I'll try and hit pan on this. And then straight after that, I hit pan on Voodoo, which is this darker purple matte, tiny, tiny baby pan, and I hit pan on that on the 22nd of November. So these two were hit back to back, two together, you know, nothing in between. They wanted to stick together on the list. So yeah, I'm actually very surprised that I hit pan on this. I would not have said that this was going to be one of the shades that I hit pan on, but it is. Here we go. I actually only had to use it 3 times to hit pan on it, which is amazing. I'm going to take that. If it's easier for me, I'll take it, you know? But yeah, I just love this palette so much, and I don't know, I want to give it a cuddle constantly. I really do love it. Okay, next. My voice is starting to hurt. I have the shade 3 from the Bella Pierre All Stars palette. So the final pan in this palette is this deep, I was going to say deep, not very. It's like a medium brown matte. And I said before in my Pan That palette in order update, it was almost like a creamy texture. It was very, very strange because it didn't have any fallout at all. And it just felt creamy. I don't know how to describe it. It just felt very different from normal powder eyeshadows. And I hit pan on that on the 28th of November. And yeah, I'm now working on this inner corner shade and also this orangey shade as well. So I'm working on these two kind of together. I am wanting to get both of those panned by the end of the year. If I can do that, that would be amazing. And finally, as of right now, I know I am pre-filming a little bit, so there will probably be a few more pans, but maybe not, to be honest. Maybe not, because I've kind of stopped my Pan Those Eyeshadows series, so I probably won't hit very many pans in December. Oh, I just thought of another one. So this is not the final pan, ignore me. But I hit pan on the shade Fortune up here. This is like a bright gold shimmer shade. Really, really beautiful for like an inner corner or an accent with some blues. I really, really did love that. And I hit pan on that on the 4th of December. It feels so weird to say. It feels horrible to say. But again, this shade was a focus palette pan in my Pan Those Eyeshadows. And I have another one, which I didn't write down, but I remembered that I did actually hit pan on it, so bear with. So this is Colourpop Ice Dream. It is a Super Shock shadow, and I do have a tiny weeny pan in it. I think you can see there. I'm really not sure. Because it's such a light shade, it's very, very hard to show the pan. But for argument's sake, I'll just say I hit pan on it today because I don't actually know when I hit pan on it. It was one of those shades that I just used and then one day I saw the pan. So I don't know. So this, I hit pan on today, even though I have not used it today. Let's just say, for argument's sake, I hit pan on it today. So yeah, they are all the pans. I'm out of breath. My chest hurts because I did film a video just before this as well. Oh my goodness me, Vlogmas is taking it out of me. I'm not gonna lie, it really is, but it is so worth it. I'm so happy with how Vlogmas has gone. I know this video is going live kind of mid-Vlogmas, so I hope you are enjoying it so far. I am loving it. I've noticed such a growth of subscribers since starting Vlogmas, and for me, it hasn't been that long. So I'm just over the moon with everyone that has showed their support and everyone that's stuck around and everyone new and old that has subscribed to this channel. It really does mean the world to me, and yeah, it makes me smile every day. I'm gonna stop getting mushy now because we don't want to hear that, do we? This is it, all of the pans that I hit in 2023. Having them all in one video is really crazy to me because throughout the year you don't really notice your progress, but then yeah, accumulating everything in one video it's a lot. It really is. I've currently been filming for 44 minutes. So we'll see how long this video ends up being. We'll see how long I condense it down to. I'm not going to take any more of your time. I know you've been here for a very long time, so if you have, you are such a trooper. I hope you did enjoy this video. Like and subscribe because, as I said, Vlogmas is still happening. It's still some amazing content for you guys coming in the latter half of this month. I hope you stick around and I hope you do enjoy. I hope you have an incredible day and I will see you tomorrow for a brand new video. Bye bye!